Today's show is sponsored by CaskCartel.com, your premium spirits marketplace. It's so convenient. Go to CaskCartel.com, get your spirits shipped directly to your door. Yes, some of the allocated stuff is going to cost more, but it is a convenience play. You can sit at home. You don't have to go to a raffle. You don't have to camp out overnight. You can get premium spirits delivered directly to your door. And obviously those daily drinkers, they are going to be more on par with what you pay in the store. So check them out at CaskCartel.com and follow them on Instagram at CaskCartel. They're always doing awesome giveaways for their followers. Today's show is also sponsored by PremiumBarProducts.com, your number one source for laser etched glassware and barware. It is also the place you can go to get the official Dad's Drinking Bourbon Glencairn. What better gift to give someone than customized laser etched glassware? They have all sorts of glasses: the Glen, the Wee Glen, the Tua, the Neat Glass, the Tipsy Rocks glass, the Kenzie Dram. That's the one everybody wants to get. They have all sorts of glasses there, as well as bar tools. Go to PremiumBarProducts.com and check them out.
Hey, John boy, look at you indirectly making me a little extra money here now. I like where this is heading.
Oh, you're going to go for this right off the bat? I thought we were going to save this for like sponsorship time, but look at you all high and mighty. You put in $100 into action247.com and ended up with $374.
Yep. Woo.
I wanted to talk about this to kind of start the show. I mean, we are watching the national championship while we are recording this episode. I know both of us have our TVs on mute. We are watching Alabama defeat Ohio State pretty handily. The game just ended.
And I mean, I think defeat would have been what happened in the first half. Ass whooping's what happened by the end of the fourth quarter.
Well, it was close in the second quarter. It was pretty close. And then all of a sudden, Alabama was like, nah, fam, we're good.
Like, hey, we've been cruising in third gear pretty good, but rev it on up a little bit.
You want to talk about this? I mean, Ohio State came off of that Clemson game where they absolutely whooped Clemson. And Alabama was just sitting there. I mean, you look at this on paper, Ohio State had only played 7 games up to that point. Alabama had played 12. So, I mean, obviously, you got to think about fatigue. Ohio State had all these advantages. If there was a year to take down Alabama, their people were rested. Big Ten pulled some bullshit and said they weren't going to play, and then all of a sudden said they were going to play, and then they changed the rules to let Ohio State get into the championship. Like, there was a whole bunch of stuff that went on this year, and Alabama was like, nah. I mean, Mac Jones threw for 454 yards and 5 touchdowns. Devonta Smith, 215 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half before he hurt his hand in the second half and came out of the game.
As I'm sitting here, I've got SVP on mute, and then I hear you talking, and now I've got like this just double bald guy vision. It's kind of weird. But I will give credit at least to OSU on that role they put on Clemson. At least, I mean, they were going to catch flack for being in to a degree, especially if Clemson would have rolled them. But at least they ponied up to that part and didn't completely pull at Notre Dame. And just God, why do they keep putting them in the damn playoffs? Shit's old.
I mean, Florida really should have been in there if they didn't shit the bed towards the end of the season, like that one game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's almost, those random distilleries that seem to always win the whatever whiskey awards and yada, yada. And you're like, man, who drinks this? Nobody's ever heard of this. Nobody buys this. I know. That's the equivalent of Notre Dame being in the playoff every year. Hey, we got some awards. We did something. We made it. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but nobody likes you or thinks you're worth the shit. Sorry, bud.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Edwards, and with me, as always, is Zeke Baker, and together we make the Dad's Drinking Bourbon. Wherever you are, whatever time it is, thank you for making us a part of your day. We are delving into my former career of sports radio tonight. The national championship for the NCAA was tonight, with the Alabama Crimson Tide handily defeating the Ohio State Buckeyes 52-24 down in Miami. Zeke, You're just bringing out shots already. Shots fired at people that win whiskey awards and shots fired at Notre Dame. I will argue with you that Notre Dame gets in on name recognition alone. So to make your analogy right, it would be a really good distillery that puts out a shit bottle but wins anyway because they have that name recognition. I mean, if it wasn't Notre Dame, if it was any other school, like if that was Toledo and they were in the same position, there's no way they make it into the Final Four.
Well, I mean, who's to say I didn't have that thought process going in? I just thought I would, be polite and not name anyone, because I'm sure plenty of the folks listening, everybody's kind of different and has their own cup of tea, but I'm sure there's probably at least one brand that, seems to always be in the top 3 or 5 every year with some product they have. And you think to yourself, why does this keep showing up on the radar? I don't know a soul that buys it or drinks it. Again, we don't need to go down that road. It's not positive criticism. So we'll leave that open to the imagination.
Well, I just wonder, how much do rankings really matter anyway? I mean, and I'm thinking about football right now, because football, it gets to a point, like basically you're screwed if you don't win out every single game every year. If you don't go undefeated, then you're not winning the national championship. Gets into this murky thing. Here's where I think it would be interesting in the whiskey community, right? So what if you took stats like you did in the NCAA and you basically said, what are the sales for these brands? And then if you were going to put them in the top 10, you have to know what the sales are. And you don't really have an equivalent for RPI, but there are stats you could use here to put these bottles up against each other and actually rank them.
I see where you're going. I just think that would be tough if you factor in, the whole on-premise side of the business. Because I got a feeling the stuff that's, going to be accounting for the most dollars is, these products that are the, whales across the border, this and that. And that's where they're raking in money. And it's not even necessarily anybody going for that product. Well, it's the whale. It's the default. It's what you get.
Well, at that point, you're really looking at allocated stuff, right? Like you're going to be thinking about a limited edition version rather than the small batch.
In that case, sales would be strictly based on how many were produced, because if it's allocated, it sells out every year.
But can't you do a percentage or how quickly it sells out?
I mean, I think that's all up to, the store or the ABC or distro. But I mean, I don't know if hardly anything that's technically allocated anymore that doesn't sell out each and every year. I'm sure there's a few things out there, but I think it would be tough.
Just trying to make you think here. I mean, there's got to be something that we can do to level the playing field. I mean, blind tasting is one thing, but it is still subjective based off of people's taste.
I mean, I'm just baffled that you worked in radio.
It's not like I say it every second.
No, the best part was just the whole back and forth about, so we were discussing in our group chat on Morgan Wallen's new double album. It's got tracks 1 through 15 on both discs. It's a double album. Well, apparently, depending on the platform you downloaded it from, it didn't separate the two, which I guess makes sense because it's not going to count to 15 twice. It just went 1 through 30. So we end up in a pretty good, bullshitters discussion over whether or not it should be considered 2 albums or 1, especially with digital media now, and you don't have like 2 physical albums. And at least a couple times, they're like, no. Dent says it's 2. He worked in radio, you guys, remember?
I know, I saw you do that. That was good.
and then you finally chime in like 20 minutes later. Hey guys, it's 2. I worked in radio. You don't know this?
I only said that because I read up. I scrolled up. I'm not that
it was just
dumb.
perfect. It was perfect timing. You finally came in on cue for once.
Yeah, I came in on cue 20 minutes later. I watched a great documentary on Netflix, and I recommend this to anybody who's listening. It's called The Evolution of Rap. Pac is on there talking about his double album. He goes, we're about to release a double album, all eyes on me. Like, so for our friend Mike Schwartz that is in our group and wanted to claim that it is 1 album, 2 discs, you're wrong. The industry term is double album.
Yeah, I don't know where he got that. I mean, I think it throws people off because nobody owns a disc anymore. So you don't physically have like something in each hand to look at. But yeah, a double album is 2 things. 1 body of work maybe, but it's still 2 albums inside that body of work.
It was basically because an LP went 10 to 15 songs. An EP went about 5 to 6 songs. If you had too many songs that all kind of flowed together at the same time of your life and wanted to release them at the same time, it was a double album because you couldn't fit all of that on 1 disc at that time.
Makes sense. But I will at least close out this random ramble with, if you play the whole thing in its entirety, The first 1 through 15 have a pretty decent similar theme, and so does the second 1 through 15. You can tell it's meant to be two separate, trains of thought almost, or emotions and whatever.
So why not release 2 albums?
He did at once. Double album.
From an economic standpoint, we are rambling a lot tonight, but I would just say like an economic standpoint. At that point, say you can charge $11.99 for 1 album and you're going to charge $18.99 for a double album. Well, you're missing out on $3 an album.
Maybe he just wrote that much quality stuff. I mean, I'm sure most people put out an album. There's all kinds of tracks and stuff left in the floor, so to speak. Maybe these were all just, better than average to higher than that. And why waste it? Put it out now. Seize the carp.
Got to risk it for the biscuit.
There you go, big guy.
Well, anyways, speaking of Columbus and the travesty that happened to the Ohio State Buckeyes, I hate, by the way, the Ohio State University. And I understand where it comes from. It goes back to its agricultural days when it was first put out, and it was used to distinguish itself from some of the other schools in Ohio to make sure it wasn't compared to Miami and Ohio University and things like that. But I just hate the Ohio State University. And part of it, too, is also the fact that I am a Kentucky grad. There were a bunch of people from Ohio that went to Kentucky, and they were all OSU fans, but they're at Kentucky. Go to the damn school you want to go to. Don't come to my school. All I got to say. But we are drinking a bottle from a distillery in Columbus, Ohio, and that distillery is Watershed. Before we get into the stats of this bottle, because stats matter, and stats really help you if you're going on the sports book, which you did to win a whole bunch of money tonight. You used code DADS100. They matched your initial deposit of $100. You bet all of that on the game tonight. Ended up winning $374 in total. So you basically took $100, turned it into $374. Congratulations. Action247.com is the only sports book by Tennesseans for Tennesseans. One of the cool things about them is they actually have places you can go around Tennessee and do a cash deposit or a cash withdrawal. You don't actually have to connect electronically all the time. They have awesome apps. I've already used the app on my phone. Super cool. Use code DADS100. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100, just like Zeke did. They're also doing an awesome PlayStation 5 giveaway this week for their free-to-play game of the week. There's no catch. The game is 100% free to play, and they will enter you in the giveaway. Looking for some action on your favorite games? Go to action247.com. Now that we got those stats out of the way, let's get to some stats on this bottle. It is a barrel strength, finished in Nocino barrels. It's 4 years old. It is 59.5 ABV, which is 119 proof. It is $79.99. This is the world's first ever bourbon finished in Nocino barrels. The distillery is releasing this in celebration of 10 years of independent distilling. Highly limited and offered exclusively at the Watershed Distillery bottle shop in Columbus, Ohio. This age-stated bourbon was rested just shy of 5 years and bottled at barrel strength. It was finished in Nocino barrels, and you're probably sitting there going, okay, what is Nocino?
Yeah, I thought it was some fancy word for not wearing pants.
Nocinos?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds good, right?
It sounds perfect. It is a nutty sweet liqueur made from unripe Ohio black walnuts, sugar, and spices, released once a year in limited supply. The walnuts must be harvested prior to the nut forming and before they fall from the tree, creating a narrow window of time to produce this rarity. So it's a very limited window, Zeke Baker.
I'm not the best with, horticulture or whatever that is, but I don't even understand obviously I understand that a nut grows inside the seed or whatever, but still or is the nut the seed, whatever. But what are you harvesting then if nothing's developed? I'm lost kind of.
It's like nut fetuses.
I mean, I had that thought and I wasn't going to go there, like the embryonic state or something.
I don't know. It's like a pre-hard nut. Maybe it's still like a liquid form at that point.
That's all I could think of, is maybe it's still liquid, so that when you get it and squish it or whatever, it's almost like busting a grape, and that's where your concentrate comes from. You make the liqueur out of or with.
It's unripe, and it's a black walnut. Now I'm gonna Google this.
Yeah, you definitely got some homework for later there, big cat.
Well, I'm going to look at what it looks like.
I'd never even heard of Nocino before. I was like, what in the hell is he saying?
So it doesn't look hard. It still looks green. The walnut is green and it hasn't got hard. And it kind of looks white and pasty on the inside.
Huh. Have you ever heard of this liqueur before?
I have not. I think I've had it, but like I haven't dove into what it means.
So does it require a special type of barrel, or is it just, this is just, a run-of-the-mill barrel that this product happened to age in?
Well, the cool thing is that Watershed actually puts out a Nocino liqueur, and they are one of the few places that does that. So they've basically taken these barrels that they made their liqueur in and said, okay, well, let's try to finish these off with some whiskey.
So it doesn't require a special barrel, you're assuming, is what you're telling me?
Yeah, I mean, it traditionally...
way to skirt the question there.
So they said Nocino traditionally hails from Italy, but thanks to our good friend and local Charlie, who shared his time-honored family recipe, we've been able to help the tradition take root in the Midwest. After making our Nocino, we age it in spent bourbon barrels for added richness and complexity.
Okay.
So they don't have to use a bourbon barrel, but they have them. They're using them. They might as well reuse them.
No, it makes sense.
All that being said, you have the stats. You have as much as I know about this bottle. What did you think about it, Zeke Baker?
Let's see, note-wise, for the nose, the first impression I got was something somewhere between toffee and ginger cookies, but then also an added amount of alcohol. I said it would be almost like, when you mix the wasabi and the ginger stuff you get at the sushi restaurant. It really kind of reminded me of that, as far as like times when you've had those two smells directly, right under the nose and can pick them up in a blend. Just that heat smell and ginger as well. Palate wise, first taste I got, like honestly right before I took a taste, the nose still was radiating off of this, and you could immediately get kind of a youthful presence out of it. Moving into the palate, I felt like it was a mix between almost kind of like uncooked or burnt like home kernel popcorn, like you make on the stovetop, and then just had a heavy alcohol burn. I felt like put down the once that burn kind of fades out, it kind of circled back to something I caught on the nose as far as having just a strong essence of, it reminded me of like ginger snaps or ginger cookies. I guess maybe that's something to do with the Nocino, because I don't ever recollect any kind of ginger notes at all in a whiskey product, but I definitely got it on nose and palate for this one. Finish-wise, it just kind of left my tongue feeling starched.
I think there are similarities I have with you and differences as always, but for the nose, I don't know the best word to describe it or the best way to describe it. Besides, it's got that kind of raw, crafty nose. Like, when you have a craft distillery, like it's not completely cooked, but it's not cooked. It's like rough around the edges, nose to it. A little bit of green apple, coffee, floral. Funny enough, I did write down ginger too. The taste though, the first thing that I got was like a flashbang of heat. It's like somebody was invading the house, threw in a flashbang, and it was like, oh, hot damn. And then my tongue was super tingly, so I had to get past that first sip, and I didn't get a lot on the palate because of it. And then once all of that subsided, I really could enjoy it again at the finish. And you're right, it's that popcorn, but it's like that stovetop popcorn. It's the Jiffy Pop. And then almost a little bit of red wine, that maltiness, but like I want to say that maltiness is like the craft signature coffee finished paired with a hell of a Kentucky hug. I definitely felt this one going down my chest. So I would just say there are good notes in here, but there's a lot of heat too.
It definitely is more than prickly, I would say.
It's going to put some hair on your chest and you need it.
Whatever, buds. I got more than you.
What are you talking about?
If we did like an average based on surface area, I'm winning.
I don't know, man. You've seen me.
I know. You just have more surface area, so you may have more hairs, but I think I got the density going on.
Fair enough. Now, end of the day, I think you're wrong, but for the sake of moving on, I'm just going to say you're right. Now, at the end of the day, what are you rating this?
I haven't played around with it in water. Just didn't have time to get there. I do wonder where that would go with it as far as if it subsides that heat some and does change it around. As is, straight out of the bottle, uncut, unfiltered, however you want to look at it. It just packs a lot of heat. And then the notes that come out beyond the heat, that like the popcorn thing, it's not as youthful as, what you would commonly get in some places, but it's definitely a form of youth. And it took me a minute to like pinpoint it, but I felt like it was spot on. If you ever had corn off the stovetop that gets a little burnt or even sometimes it's uncooked. I don't know, but just the kernels involved for whatever reason. I definitely felt like that was it. I definitely didn't love it by any means. And it, $80 a bottle. I've got to have a pretty strong affection for it in order for me to want to buy one.
I just poured a little bit more and put some water in there. It's still got the burnt popcorn taste to it. It's a little creamier. It's not as hot, but still cooked. And you can tell that it's like that. Like it's got some char. We have seen in Tennessee, I mean, my biggest problem isn't the taste on this one because it's the local distillery. This is a distillery only release. You know that the community is going to get behind it. You know that they have some loyal people in the community. Putting it at $80, yes, I know it's a limited edition release, but it's 4 years old. And they already have the Nocino barrels there. I'm thinking of an ops cost. I'm thinking of all that other stuff. I just think $80 for a 4-year limited release is a tough pill to swallow. And
yeah, it makes sense. Especially like you brought up the fact that it wasn't like they sourced the barrels out. I mean, assumably they were already covered in the cost of the original Nocino that got produced.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of what's going on here because this is the third time they used it. Basically, they aged their bourbon in it, then they aged the Nocino in it, then they aged this bourbon in it after they already aged it in another barrel. So this is the third use of the barrel. It's tough. I mean, we've seen in Tennessee a lot of the crafts kind of push back down to 60, and I know we shouldn't be quibbling over $20, and people are going to kind of get on me for that, but it's just a precedent that I don't love of 4-year whiskey being $80.
No, same here. I mean, like I say, that to me, once you get around that mark, I've got to have a pretty strong affinity for you and really want to enjoy drinking it to get a bottle. And this would come up short of that mark for sure.
Showing that we're doing our due diligence, right? Like there are picks that are out there. In Jack Daniel's Barrel Proof 5-year pick, $65. You put some of these other things like Davidson Reserve, $60. Heath Clark, H. Clark Distillery, $60. So I think $80, I don't want to sound like I'm just harping on the price. I also just think that there's something there. I don't know if it's the cuts. I don't know if it's where they're aging the barrel, but there is a lot of heat. It definitely got toasted.
My thought initially was, I think that heat's got to be there, from something to do with the distilling process.
You think it's a cuts thing?
Somewhere in there. I'm not smart enough to know all the ins and outs, admittedly, but I think no matter what barrel you put this in or how short or how long it aged, because even with water, it's still there. I think this is something that's, basically born into the juice, so to speak.
I wonder what their mash bill is. I mean, I feel like it would have to be a little bit higher corn, at least high 70s for the corn content, but I would love to know from them what it is. But there are also aspects of this that I find super unique. It makes me wish that other part of it was dialed down. Like if they could find a way to kind of get the cooked portion of it down, but play up that ginger and the green apple and the other stuff I'm getting from here, I think this could be a very, very, very unique pour.
Yeah, the ginger is definitely an interesting note. And without knowing what necessarily goes into Nocino, but the fact that it's walnut based, I don't think there'd be a link or an association there. So who knows where that's coming from?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I definitely don't want to discourage them at any point because I think what they're doing is unique, and I love when a distillery is going to kind of think outside the box and go for it. It's just something that in there that's a little bit burnt. I just wish it wasn't. But besides that, I love what they're doing.
Just a bit outside.
Well, Zeke, what are you going to do with all your winnings?
I mean, it is the birthday week, son. We got to make it rain somewhere in the next 5-6 days, whatever it is.
You mean make it rain at a steakhouse or something? That's a seafood tower right there.
That would actually be the most fitting use for that. We just get the seafood tower and take pictures of it and send it to everybody.
Our friend Michael St. Pierre would love to see a seafood tower.
He'd love to eat it.
Well, Zeke, it is your birthday week. Everybody take some time out this week and wish Zeke a happy birthday. We love you. It's another year around the sun. Congratulations. We're happy to have you. This has been a fun show. We kind of deviated from our initial mission. We let it go on a little bit longer, but now it's time to go. So thank you to the folks at Watershed for sending this our way. We definitely love what you're doing, but I am probably a bar on this one. What about you, Zeke?
Yeah, I'm in the same class. Like I say, 80 is just, I really got to love and enjoy drinking it to get that 80 mark and higher.
But I think that Nocino is super interesting. So if I hadn't had this and I saw it at a bar, I'd try it.
Yeah, I'm still interested to see exactly what that product is on its own.
I will find a way to get us some of the regular Nocino. And I will also tell everybody to find us on Facebook at Dad's Drinking Bourbon, Twitter at Bourbon Dads, Instagram at Dad's Drinking Bourbon. Find us wherever you download your podcast. Chances are you already have because you're listening to us right now. Zeke, where else can the folks find us?
This coming Friday at Bullet, Saturday morning down at Jack Daniels, and then Saturday evening back in good old Nashville for an old faux barrel proof pick of all things. Happy birthday to me.
3 picks in 2 days for Zeke. Cheers.
Ciao.